Good evening, everybody. I will call tonight's meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. And I appreciate having such a big crowd tonight. And folks, I'd like everyone to suspend conversation so we can start with our meeting. I'll mention logistics and remote instructions. If you're joining remotely, please change your name display to indicate your first and last name. When you speak, please start by stating your name and where you live. We ask that you keep your comments and questions during general business and appearances to under 5 minutes. And anyone who wishes to speak must be called on by the mayor. And once you're called on again, please state your name and where you live. And if you speak out of turn, discuss non-germane topics, go on too long, etc., you may be interrupted and asked to adjust your comments or behavior. Because we have one member appearing remotely, Councilor Sheridan, will you state your name?
James Sheridan.
Thanks, Jim. Before we get started, I want to read the following statement of expectation that we try to hold ourselves and each other to. The City Council affirms its shared commitment to a respectful and professional environment. We do not support negative or personal comments directed at city staff or department heads. We ask that all remarks remain focused on issues, policies, and solutions. This expectation supports productive dialogue and reflects our respect and appreciation for those who serve our community. I assume council is satisfied with the agenda, so we'll proceed as though the agenda is approved. I will apologize. Well, I'll apologize to the members of the public who were confused by the location of the meeting. We had notices go out with two different locations indicated, and for that reason, we had to make a quick change from Senior Center to here. And I'm glad that you all found your way here, and we will proceed. First item on the agenda is general. I'll call you.
The two different meetings scheduled here or warrant here, and it has created confusion of whether it's a joint meeting or.
It's a meeting of the City Council.
Okay, but that's not what Public Works put on people's doors.
Okay, it's a meeting of the City Council, and we will proceed as a meeting of the City Council.
Open time on the agenda for a public hearing, because this is not going to work at 5 minutes per person. You're going to be here for an hour or two.
I don't know how long we're going to be here, Steve, but thank you for raising the point. Because the meeting has been scheduled essentially to discuss the East State Street construction, what I'm going to do is have public comments on the East State Street issue at that point in the agenda rather than during general business and appearances. And so we'll start with general business and appearances. We'll take comments from members of the public on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. Then we'll go forward with the agenda. Then when we come to item 6, East State Street construction update and discussion, we will have ample opportunity for members of the public to address the council regarding concerning East State Street. So now general business and appearances, we would recognize members of the public to address the council on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. And we ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to be heard on some topic that is not on tonight's agenda? Steve.
Sure. Steve Whitaker, Montpelier. I want to focus tonight on a simple but fundamental question, and it tangentially touches on the other agenda item. Are the city's own public planning bodies being listened to and invited and respected in decisions about Country Club Road, or East State Street? Because if the answer is no, then we're not just making a planning mistake, we're eroding institutions that exist to represent the public. Let's start with Country Club Road. It's publicly owned land. It's one of the largest and most consequential parcels the city has acquired or will in decades. Decisions about it will shape housing, transportation, resilience, fiscal risk for generations. That kind of decision is supposed to begin, not end, with public planning. Yet we've heard on the record from the Planning Commission itself that Country Club Road has been put on a separate track, a traffic handled by staff, consultants in this council, and a subcommittee rather than by the city's Planning Commission and Complete Streets Committee. That should give everyone pause. The Planning Commission exists to envision and guide land use planning. The Housing Committee exists to think about and assure affordability and equity. The Complete Streets Committee exists to ensure safety, access, and multimodal transportation. The Homelessness Committee exists because housing decisions have real human consequences every day. These bodies are not advisory window dressing. They're designated focus groups for how the city council hears from the public before decisions harden. So I want to ask plainly, has the Planning Commission been asked to lead or review a master plan for Country Club Road? We all know the answer is no. Has the Housing Committee been asked to weigh in on affordability goals before a developer process began? The answer again is no. Has the Complete Streets Committee been invited to shape the transportation network framework before an RFP locks in assumptions? No. Has the Homelessness Committee been asked about how this land could serve urgent needs? Or are these bodies being asked after the fact to react to decisions already made? Because those are very different roles. One is planning, the other is cleanup. It also matters what's missing. The city plan does not contain a master plan for Country Club Road. That was acknowledged when the land was acquired and since. We were told in 2023 that a second phase of public engagement and master planning would follow, that vision would be finished together within the community. That phase has not happened. Instead, we're watching a developer-driven process move forward as if the vision were already complete and theirs to profit from. That puts the city in a dangerous position, not only legally or financially, but institutionally. If public bodies feel sidelined, they disengage. If residents feel decisions are foreclosed, they stop participating. Voters stop voting. Candidates quit seeking offices, quit running for council. This is not about opposing, and once trust erodes, it's very hard to rebuild. This is not about opposing development. It's not about preferring one design over another. It's about putting first things first. Public land requires public planning first. Developers come after the community sets the framework, not before. Tonight's an opportunity to course correct. The council can say, we hear you, we will pause, we will bring this land back into public planning where it belongs. That means asking for reconstituting and asking our planning commission to do its job. That means engaging the Housing and Complete Streets and Homelessness committees in shaping the goals. That means finishing the vision that was promised before we give away that leverage that public ownership provides. Country Club Road is not just a parcel. It's a test of whether public institutions matter. I hope the city chooses to pass that test. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Dave Bellini.
Hey, hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bellini. Just a couple of comments. We're hiring a new city manager, and I'm just wondering, what are the major performance expectations? Sort of like, what's the big 1 or 2 or 3 things that the council is looking for? And I just wondered if they were sort of simple and clear and the public would know, and these metrics could be measured. That's my first comment. My second comment is Stan, if I say his name correctly, Brinkerhoff, asked a couple of questions. I was kind of surprised. I didn't know that stuff, but I'm still don't know perhaps the whys of what he pointed out, and I wouldn't mind hearing some of that. And lastly, Public Works, if you're out there, or not lastly, but Public Works, if you're out there, you're absolutely killing it. Liberty Street, Loomis Street, Barry Street, it's looking good. The snow's being picked up, and I think a lot of people are noticing that. This is, I guess, sort of a personal comment to John Blue Moon Odom. Your staff is fantastic, John. You know they take care of me every time I have to make a payment. I do appreciate that. And please extend my thanks to them. And I'll be quiet there. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I will say that in the negotiation of the contract with our new city manager, we did discuss evaluations, and the determination is made that the criteria for evaluation will be developed jointly between the new manager and the council after she joins us later this month. Anybody else? Anybody in the room? Okay. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? I think there's no minutes, even though there's a slot for minutes.
Yeah, my bad.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now on to I suspect we have such a big crowd here. East State Street construction. Kurt, guess we can toss it right to you.
All right, thank you. My name is Kurt Modica. I'm the Public Works Director for Montpelier. And tonight we're going to be discussing two alternatives for the East State Street reconstruction project with regard to the streetscape. But before I get into that, I just wanted to provide just a brief history of the discussions that we've had to date on this project with regard to streetscape. So this will be our fourth public meeting on this topic. On April 23rd, Public Works presented a full build out, which included retention of parking as well as an uphill bike lane and additional sidewalks from Hubbard Street up to College Street. With a follow-up on May 28th with the same essential layout, just more detail. And then January 21st, we came in with an alternative to just extend, put everything back as existing with no bike lane, retention of parking, and then extend the sidewalk on the south side of the street, which is the uphill lane from Hubbard Street up to College Street. And today we're going to look at two alternatives, which will involve removal of some parking and the addition of a bike lane on the uphill lane, as well as some sidewalk changes. Specifically, the first alternative, as proposed by the Complete Streets Committee, includes removal of parking from Cedar Street to West Street and the installation of an uphill bike lane within those same limits, as well as sidewalks on both sides of the street from Hubbard to West Street. So that'll be alternative one, and I'll share some graphics of that alternative. And then a slight variation that DPW developed with the same concept of adding a bike lane. The variation is that we would propose to extend the bike lane from Harry Sheridan up to West Street on the uphill lane and remove the parking within the same limits. And make a continuous sidewalk from Hubbard Street up to College Street and remove the sidewalk on the north side that exists today. So those are the two alternatives, and we can go through some of the costs associated with those, as well as the parking impacts. Maybe a little bit hard to see, but we're starting from the bottom of the hill. So this is Main Street on the left. And, oops.
I'm not seeing it on my screen yet.
Oh,
Can you
make sure.
lights? I've been trying for years to get you to delamp that center light. Chris?
You want us to try turning it off, see how that goes.
Here. Okay, you see that now? Okay. We'll zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so starting from Main Street, it would, this is alternative one proposed by the Complete Streets Committee. So it retains the parking as is now, all the way up through. So really no changes all the way up to Cedar Street, which is here. Sorry, I'm trying to pan and zoom here. So this Cedar, the intersection of Cedar Street is where the bike lane would begin. And what we're showing here is a 6-foot wide bike path with a 3-foot buffer. And that's really essentially making up the difference between the parking stalls are approximately 8 feet wide and putting travel lanes at 9.5 foot each, which, you know, that is subject to variation, potentially 10 foot might be what would end up happening here. But essentially a 6-foot path with a 3-foot buffer extending all the way from Cedar Street. And so then parking stall, 23 labeled here would be the first one to go in front of 48 East State Street. And just back up here, there is some notes on times. So just a quick summary is that the total for this alternative one, there's a total of 41 on-street spaces that would be removed as part of this proposal. And so the bike lane would continue from Cedar Street all the way up through the intersection of Hubbard Street. And starting at Hubbard Street, we would begin installing a new sidewalk that doesn't exist today on this side of the road, which is the south side. It's approximately 500 feet, and the cost for that added sidewalk is approximately $85,000. Continuing up past Hubbard Street, the bike lane and sidewalk would continue all the way up to West Street, which is near the college. So the college is on this side. At that point, the bike lane and the new additional sidewalk would end, as well as the sidewalk on the north side of the road on this side here. And it would retain the last 15 spaces between West Street and College Street. So really that's the quick summary of alternative one as proposed by the Complete Streets Committee. So a variation on adding a bike lane developed by the Department of Public Works is to instead start the bike lane at Harry Sheridan. And the reason for this, our reasoning for this is that the grade of the road at Harry Sheridan starts to increase. So I think it'd be beneficial if we're going to add a bike lane from Cedar to West to continue that bike lane through the steep portion of the street, starting at Harry Sheridan. So under this scenario, there's a total of 52 spaces that would be removed because we're, removing the spaces between Harry Sheridan and Cedar Street. Again, the similar buffered bike lane, 6 foot with a 3-foot buffer. So that would be essentially painted hatching, no curb separation from the bike lane on either option. Again, this would continue up similar to the previous proposal up to West Street. And at Hubbard Street, again, we would propose to add the sidewalk on the south side. The difference being that we propose to remove the sidewalk on the north side. And the reason for that is we believe we can avoid a retaining wall between Hubbard Street and the current mid-block crosswalk by shifting the road alignment slightly, 5 feet roughly, which would allow for the construction of the sidewalk without the retaining wall, but then would push back the north side. So if we removed the sidewalk, the curb line, the new curb line would be approximately where the back of the existing sidewalk is today. So to eliminate property impacts. So under this scenario, we've got, again, an additional 500 feet of sidewalk, But in this case, the cost of that new sidewalk would be offset by not reconstructing the sidewalk that exists on the north side. So really no net change to sidewalk cost under this scenario. And again, the bike lane would continue up all the way up to West Street where the bike lane would then terminate, as well as the sidewalk. So again, and similar to the alternative one, we would retain the last 15 spaces between West Street and College Street. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And I think really the meat of this meeting is going to be public comment and concerns or support for the proposal, one or the other. And so I'll stop sharing unless you'd like me to keep this up, but
Why don't we keep it up for a bit to see
Okay.
if people have any questions about what they are seeing here? And I'll open it up to public comment or question at this point. Yes, ma'am. Well,
Thank you. Sorry, do you prefer,
well, let's
you're the boss.
go ahead and turn the light on.
Okay.
Need to read.
Didn't want to make an executive decision.
Right.
Polly Fowler, Bliss Road, and I'm
Speak into the microphone, please.
Polly Fowler. Well, let's see. Polly Fowler, Bliss Road, but I am reading a statement from the Complete Streets Committee. And apologies if any of this information is redundant from what Kurt just presented. Councilors, for your April 23rd meeting, city staff presented 3 streetscape designs for East State Street. Alternative 1 was to widen the road to accommodate sidewalks and an uphill bicycle lane, estimated cost of $9 million. Alternative 2 was to widen the road to accommodate partial sidewalks and an uphill bicycle lane, estimated cost of $7 million. And alternative 3 was to rebuild the road as is at an estimated cost of $5 million. The council decided on a modified version of alternative 2 to widen the road to accommodate sidewalks, but not the bicycle lane. We objected to staff's presentation of alternatives at the time because it placed the cost burden of widening the road on sidewalks and the bicycle lane rather than the retention of on-street parking. A 4th alternative should have been presented. Alternative 4 would have been to reduce on-street parking where necessary to complete sidewalks and add an uphill bicycle lane. Estimated cost of $5 million, about the same cost to rebuild the road as is per alternative 3 previously presented. For the balance of the 2025 calendar year, we urge staff and council to consider an alternative that judiciously reduced on-street parking to accommodate sidewalks and the bicycle lane in the design. When staff returned to council last month regarding our proposal, staff indicated it would add approximately $75,000 to the project cost. Noting the considerable reduction in potential cost from $2 million to $75,000 to broaden functionality of the street, the council wisely opted to reconsider options. At your January 21st, 2026 meeting, council directed staff to prepare an alternative design consistent with our recommendations, which were to remove on-street parking from Cedar Street to West Street, complete the sidewalks on both sides of the street between Hubbard Street and West Street, and add an uphill bicycle lane between Cedar Street and West Street, which you've seen in alternative 1. Staff returns to you this Wednesday seeking your input and direction on a way forward. Staff has prepared not 2, but 3 options. The first presented in the agenda packet was to rebuild the street as is for an estimated cost of $7 million. The Complete Streets Committee alternative, labeled alternative 1 in the agenda packet, for an additional estimated cost of, it says here's $85,000. We calculated $275,000 from the agenda packet. I'm not exactly sure the difference of $190,000, so maybe Kurt will speak to that. And the staff created design labeled alternative 2 that removes on-street parking down to Harry Sheridan and removes the existing sidewalk on the north side of the street between Hubbard Street and Mid-Block Crosswalk. We recommend immediately discarding staff's alternative 2. As you weigh the decision before you, we would like to remind you of and acknowledge the following. It is the mandate of the city's Complete Streets Committee to advocate in accordance with state statute for inclusive street design to safely accommodate all people walking, biking, using mobility devices, riding transit, and driving. We strive to be realistic, pragmatic, and collaborative. Our recommendations are not inventions of idealism, but the direct result of observation of use, direct experience, and professional expertise, coupled with proven principles of smart, safe streetscape design. Between Main and College, sidewalk can be added or widened to form a mixed use path suitable for pedestrians and cyclists for modest additional costs. While all of the properties from Cedar to West have off-street parking options, we know there could be very unpopular trade-offs for some in terms of convenience. I want to recognize that. The reconstruction of East State Street is a lightning rod topic because this is a unique opportunity for infrastructure improvement and because it is an important thoroughfare for many users, those who own property or live on the street, local businesses, and everyone who uses it as a route to and from work, school, recreation, downtown errands, and college neighborhood programming. Youth whose voices are less likely to be heard from directly deserve safe routes to school. Their interests in continuous sidewalks and a predictable bike lane are not less important than the interests of East State Street residents. Our committee has come under fire for suggesting the city streets belong to all, but they do. We recognize the difficult decision before the council because there is no perfect alternative for everyone.
Thank
I'll
you.
yield my time in respect for the beep.
Thank you. Next up. And I know we're very crowded. If the gentleman right there, Steve, and the other person could move so you're not standing right behind a council member, I would greatly appreciate that.
Hello, Council. My name is Dayton Kreitz. I live on Pleasant Street, so well away from East State Street, but I think my comments come here primarily as someone who walks their kids to school up State Street most days. I got 2 children at Union. I also am speaking as an active transportation planner and somebody who's done a lot of this type of work professionally over the last number of years. And you're going to hear a lot about everyone's opinions about losing parking, about sidewalks, about bike lanes, and it's easy to get lost in the details. I think my comments are to urge the council to lean on the goals that you've already adopted and established in your general plans. The general plan for transportation states that 2 primary goals are to cultivate a transportation system that treats all modes of transportation equally and prioritizes safety for all travelers, and to support a societal shift to non-fossil fuel future for transportation. Lofty indeed. I'm just coming here to say, I think when I think about those goals and I think about transportation and I think about movement in Montpelier, I want to put sidewalks first. For our community, we are a walkable community, and though not everyone can walk, everyone who can move needs sidewalks to safely move. Many of us need cars, but the cars are on top of everyone else who walks. Some don't have cars, some are too young to drive, etc. And the bike lanes, I'm up here wearing my Mamba shirt, former president of the Montpelier Mountain Bike Association. I ride bicycles every day, all that I can. I even ride them through the winter, but I'm also very pragmatic about it and recognizing that space for bike lanes in Montpelier, Vermont, with our winters, with our salty roads, with the land use patterns that we have here, it's challenging to make a network of that regard. But I want to lay all those things out there and say, please prioritize the goals of a safe, walkable community. And I think that's sidewalks on both sides of the road. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
Continuous sidewalks.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Harries. I'm a resident and property owner at 70 East State Street. I guess the point I mainly want to make is about the removal of parking. My property is a 4-unit building. Most of the properties and buildings where parking is proposed to be removed are small apartment buildings that do not have adequate parking off-street. Parking is essential and very important for my building, and I believe all of those buildings. So I'm, in favor of bike lanes and sidewalks, but not at the cost of losing parking in that important area. Secondly, if I understood right, the concept of moving, I guess it would be the downhill lane on the north side, essentially to where the inside of the sidewalk ends, really takes away a significant buffer, to most properties there. I mean, I'm probably then gonna be like 12 feet from, the sill of my foundation to the side of the road, which is concerning as well. So I think I need to look at the plans and then probably offer more comment related to that, because, thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then you'll have to be after him.
I'm Michael Hoffman. I live up on Sabin Street. I use East State Street constantly for going up and down, walking. In the summer or when the roads are clear of ice and snow, I ride bicycles as my major form of transportation in the city. So the great danger of East State Street is its abominable condition. The danger for bicyclists on that street isn't so much whether there's a bike lane or not, it's that the drivers are so bloody distracted trying to avoid the potholes and everything that they're not looking for people. So that combined with the enormous financial burden that the last floods have levied upon this town, just I cannot conscionably ask the city to spend more than it needs to fix the infrastructure in the road, the water and sewer, and repave it and let it go. When I was a kid, I walked a half a mile to school. We crossed roads. We could do it. I didn't need my parents to walk me to it. We teach the kids how to cross roads. It's a good learning experience, and we save some money in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, I called on another person first. So come on up, ma'am, and then you'll be up after this next person.
Hi, my name is Maria Arsenlis. I live on East State Street. But thank you for holding the special meeting. I know that this is a highly controversial topic all of a sudden. I'm a mother of a 13 and 9-year-old on East State Street. I also own a small business downtown on Main Street. And I also sit on the Planning Commission, member of Montpelier Live. I am here today, though, as a mother and a person who works with children and watching what they go through day in, day out. I respect the adults here and their own experiences walking on East State Street and around town. But the reality is that we don't build our streets just for adults to navigate. Little kids are navigating our streets and they are like this big, So if there's cars parked on the street, the cars aren't even aware that the kid is there waiting to cross the street. They don't see them. The kids are shorter than the cars that are parked. So my own children, we have taught them to cross the street safely, but it involves don't go across the street if you see a car. Like the car's not going to stop for you. I just asked my kids, what would you like to see happen with East State Street? And they said sidewalks. And I said, why? And the cars just go past. They don't stop for us. I regularly walk small children all around town as part of my work. Cars, and we are a gaggle of like 12 children. We are very noticeable and cars still do not stop for us, even at the yellow blinky lights. We try to catch the eye of drivers to please stop for us so we can cross the street. And they actively avoid looking over at us so that they can like scoot ahead because they're in a hurry to get somewhere. But children have a right to navigate this city. They can't drive themselves. They can't drive to soccer practice up at the college. They can't drive to ballet at Contemporary Dance Studio. They can't drive to the Performing Arts Hub. They are walking. And the skilled kids are biking, and they are using East State Street. We live there. We watch them out of our windows. They are biking on East State Street all the time because they don't have a choice. That's the only way to get up to the hill for them. They can't bike on Liberty. They can't bike up First Ave. It's too steep. So their route of choice is East State Street. And so I honestly, I think it's odd that it's become so controversial that we're talking so much about it, like adding a sidewalk, because it seems that a sidewalk is necessary for people to navigate this city. The location of the crosswalk mid-hill is even just so unfortunate because cars cresting over that hill don't even see people in the crosswalk until they have crested over it. And I've stood out there with Sal and Pellin in the spring, and there were 4 adults standing there, and people were not acknowledging that we were standing there. They didn't see us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, sorry to appear to jump the line.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I want to say thank you to Kurt for being here and being able to see you in the flesh. You've always been so responsive on the phone. Really appreciate that. I wanted to reinforce the comments of the last speaker, but one, I also live at the top of the hill about, I'm at 6 Tracy Street. So I'm about a block and a half, what would that be, south of East State.
I'm sorry, did I space out or did you?
Sue LaBarth.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. I'm not much bigger than some of the kids that we've been discussing, so I guess visibility might be a problem for me too. But I routinely drive, walk, and bike up and down East State Street. Riding down East State Street on my bicycle will just about shake my brain loose. Riding up on East State Street is like a slalom to avoid the worst of the bumps and holes that are going to throw me off the bike. Walking, I've never given much particular concern about having to cross above Hubbard and all of that. I haven't noticed that the sidewalk issue was germane to me. Driving, I have spent thousands of dollars on automotive repairs as a result of driving routinely, almost daily, up and down that street. My biggest concern is reconstruction of that road. I don't much care what you do about the sidewalks. The parking along the south side, especially in the winter, and the farther up you get, sometimes with snowbanks, reduces the roadway to 1 lane. I feel for the people who need to park their cars there, but it's a little sketchy coming up and down that road when there are snowbanks. So I don't know what to say about the parking. I really don't. That's a difficult problem. But my major concern is reconstruction of that roadway because it isn't safe, and it isn't safe because of the dire condition that it's in. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a couple of calls, people online, and then we'll get back to the room. Ron Dodd.
Hi there. I'm Fran Dodd, McKinley Street. Thank you all. Retaining and reconstructing East State Street using the existing layout without further delay, skipping these new alternatives, limits costs, works within a 49-foot right-of-way, and keeps parking for street residents, workers, shoppers, reducing pressure on other parking options. And it avoids high risks of digging into the bank at Bud Heaney's former property, where much work was done to stabilize it. Did you hear Tim Heaney at City Council? And importantly, it will retain sidewalks actually adjoining East State Street residences. A bike lane on East State Street is not a necessity. Additional options for bicyclists to reach the College Green and beyond include Liberty Street, or navigating to Sibley and Sabin Street, or riding the new Berry Street bike lane where 12 parking places were removed, continuing safely to Hubbard Street and up First Ave. Walk at the top of the hill if you need to. I used to do that. To address the crosswalk between existing shifting sidewalks, add pedestrian-operated flashing lights and bump outs. At Hubbard Street, add the same or stop signs to keep speeds down and make the new East State Street safer for all. We can also teach kids crossing East State Street at Hubbard to walk up First Ave to the College Green, as residents often do. Anyone at Greenway Institute can too. With such safety measures, a south side sidewalk on a portion where no one lives, while nice, is not a necessity. But please put this out for bid without further delays to get started this summer. The residents of District 2 have waited long enough to see repairs to this failing road. Do it before it falls apart. We're tired of avoiding East State Street. Save the funds for other streets. Thank you for your work.
Thanks, Fran. Stephen Bronstein.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm Steve Bronstein. I live at 95 East State Street, near the top of the hill. I'm confused why we are having this discussion. I thought this was worked out at the last meeting, and it was determined that just extending the sidewalk on the north side for the missing section between Hubbard and the existing sidewalk was all that we were going to do. And I don't know why we've reopened the discussion to include things that I thought were voted on, or excuse me, voted against. So to lose parking is hugely detrimental to the residents and the businesses. Adding a bike lane is, I think, ill-conceived at this time for the limited number of bike riders. And I think fixing the road and extending the sidewalk for just that limited section, which I thought we already voted for, was the correct solution. And to spend more money than we need to beyond those few additions is irresponsible. Though I do like Fran's suggestion that maybe put a stop sign in at the crosswalk so kids can have a little more security crossing the road there. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right, now that John, I know you weren't first, but you're the first person I saw right now, so come on up.
Thank you all. John Holler, I live on McKinley Street. And I have to say, I'm somewhat conflicted about this. When I was on the city council, when I was mayor, for every year we had as a goal to become a more bike-friendly community. And I don't think we've made the progress that we need to, but I hope that you continue to make that effort. And I strongly support this complete streets policy, but I don't support revising the existing plan to rebuild East State Street for the reasons that I want to mention. I don't think a bike lane is needed on East State Street. I've been biking up and down East State Street for about 35 years. I think probably more than anybody in Montpelier. I haven't had an incident with it. It's a relatively safe, but it's become unsafe, not because of traffic, but because the road is in such terrible condition. You've heard that from somebody else. It's really not a safe road to cycle on. And I'm really concerned about further delays that are going to put bicyclists at risk. And I don't think this is a minor concern to have. This road has been deteriorating for years. It was first planned for reconstruction in 2018. I think we may have been talking about it before then. The planning originally started in 2018. It's deteriorated significantly since then, as anybody knows who's driven it, and it's desperately in need of repair. So I really encourage you not to delay further, and certainly not because of the need for a bike lane that I just don't think cyclists are going to use. Some of us are sort of outliers who do ride up and down East State Street. That's not going to be common for certainly kids or most recreational cyclists. For those who do want to avoid East State Street, the traffic, Liberty Street, of course, runs parallel, and there's very little traffic there. Let's see, when I just you heard a little bit about the impact of the road condition on drivers, and I think that's a legitimate concern as well. The cost that drivers incur every day. I know I avoid it, so I have to spend additional time avoiding East State Street. I'm sure others do that as well. It's not the kind of road that we want to have for our community. I think it's just, we need to maintain our infrastructure for the people who live here, for those who visit here, to maintain the reputation of our community. The city needs to do much more to make Montpelier a more bike-friendly community. And I would encourage you to focus on that and spend the resources we need to do that in areas where people are actually going to use it. Berry Street, Main Street, Elm Street, where bikers are going and recreational cyclists are going to use those roads. And finally, just briefly say that I think that the proposed alternative to put a bump out and a light where the existing sidewalk crosses the road, I think would be adequate to ensure safety for pedestrians. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Sir, you're up next. So apologize for pointing. I think you'll be up after him.
Hi, my name's Tyler Anderson. I've lived on East State for 26 years. And I'll be brief. First of all, I thank you for the time. I also just would say, I'm going to echo a lot of points people have already brought up, but the main thing is, yeah, fixing the street. I think that's the main danger to bikers and pedestrians and drivers. I think that we should ask how many bikers actually use that street. I've heard people propose alternatives like Berry Street. They put in a bike lane there. People should be using that. I can talk about, I grew up on that street. I was born at Berlin Hospital, and I walked to school every day to go to elementary school. And yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it's worked well for my life. And what else? I guess, yeah, I would propose, yeah, I think it's good to have more visibility at crosswalks. Bump out's not a bad idea. But again, the bike lane is not a priority at this point. The priority is getting the street back up to a standard that's acceptable, that doesn't ruin our cars or make it difficult for bikers currently to use it. And I guess the other thing I would echo is that I manage properties on that street, and I can tell you that tenants really appreciate having the off-street parking year round. They struggle with the parking ban in the winter, but they do appreciate the fact that they can at least use one side of the street year round. And so I would say consider tenants, consider businesses on that street. Again, I believe many of the houses, at least in my section, are apartment buildings. And so I think it's important that this is a multi-use street. And I would say that the bike lane is not a priority, but I do appreciate everyone's thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
Been sitting too long.
I'll just have to hold it. Hi, sorry, I'm Bob Jones. I live on Dyer Avenue, which is off Town Hill. So I'm nowhere near the affected area, except I use it 6 days a week. I go up and down State Street. I go up and down Sibley and Berry. I'm not sure the Berry experiment has gone all that well for the past 2 years. I noted that the pylons were destroyed within the first year, a couple months. In 2025, I think the same thing happened. But that said, I support bicyclists. I used to ride to work for 19 years when I lived in Burlington. But I echo and urge your consideration of at least 4 of the previous speakers, Mark Hoffman, who just left, Susan Labarth, Fran McKinley, who's on the Zoom, and Mayor Holleran. I think with public works projects like this, there's a need to fix items, and then there are nice to do things. And at this point, I think I've only lived here 9 years. I know the planning process started back then, and I used to go up and down State Street. I have since avoided it in as much as shock repairs, tire replacement, et cetera. But that said, I really would urge the council to consider nothing simple, but a simpler plan of fix the sewer, the water, the basic infrastructure, repair and repave the road. I guess it's okay to add that additional sidewalk, but I don't think we need a bicycle path as well. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dawn McConnell. I'm here as a downtown business owner and just needed to say that we need more parking, not less. Taking away the parking has been pretty detrimental to our downtown businesses in terms of customers, employees, anybody who works down there. I see the issue as safety and would strongly encourage you to include the sidewalks and get the street fixed and finish the water sewer project that we started this summer. Sooner we get it done, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. You first, then we'll move around on this way.
Hi, I'm Nicole Remick, owner of Miles Court Barbershop, which is 25 East State Street. I'm not in favor of the bike lane. All of our customers, this is where they park. I have 4 barbers alongside myself. We bring in over 60 people a day. We rely on the parking downtown in this area for our customers. We have older customers who can't walk from further lots. We have customers with children that don't want to cross. This would directly impact our business, not having the parking. This is also where we park. So we are not in favor of the bike lane. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
Paul Somerset, 27 East State Street. I bought the building at 25 East State Street to open the barbershop, and Nicole now owns it and runs it. And I just wanted to, my partner and I spend a lot of time on the front porch on 27 East State Street. And what we've seen over the last year or two is a huge increase in traffic, parking traffic for the post office and the food bank. And then other local businesses that depend on that parking. I ride a bike up and down East State Street. I am in favor of alternative transportation. I have an electric vehicle. I have an electric bike. I have an electric scooter. I go up and down East State Street, and I would like to just say another voice that the main problem with East State Street for biking is the condition of the road. And I have never had a problem with the width of East State Street or the safety of it from a bike standpoint. I walk my dog on the sidewalks every day. I would love to see improved sidewalks on that street. And I just know, I would just say, besides Nicole and the 4 barbers who are here as well and all their customers, I have 3 tenants that depend on that off-street parking as well. And they depend, the city, we're talking about paid parking, but I haven't heard anyone mention tonight the unpaid parking. It is a huge source of free parking within walking distance of the downtown core, mostly utilized by employees in the downtown core. And so I'd just say, again, we've now added, there's on the running parallel, there's a bike path that goes through the entire town, a beautiful designated bike path. There's now Berry Street as well. And I often ride on Liberty Street. I just, of the volume of traffic that I see go by the front porch during bike season in the summer when I'm sitting there, the smallest group I worry about small children walking on that street. I worry about people driving up and down that road in the condition. I, as a biker myself, don't worry about riding up and down that street without a bike path. There are a lot of alternative bike paths. I just don't think it's the most important use of space on that street for the redo. And please hurry up and fix it. I'm tired of the water mains breaking. Thanks.
Thanks.
But I love the way they're fixed by public.
Now, is there someone else more in this corner? Okay, back to you. Come on up.
Always a problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Barbara Conry. I'm a former member of the Planning Commission. I live on Liberty Street for 45 years, so I've seen a lot of traffic going through there. My concern particularly is about this alternative 2. I'm hoping you're not going to really consider that, removing the sidewalk on the north side where it actually serves people's homes, as opposed to the proposed sidewalk on the south side, which does not serve people's homes, and also is at the top of a very steep bank and would require a significant a barricade there to make it safe. I think one of my questions too really is in many of these layouts that they're showing a 9.5-foot wide traveled lane. I can't imagine that most trucks really safely can make a 9.5 traveled lane. Typically lanes are 12 feet wide. And I'm very concerned about any kind of traffic that would happen on that road. And finally, it's my understanding that the original concept was voted on and approved. So I'm a little confused as to why this is being brought up again, considering the fact that according to state statutes, once the determination is made, it's not subject to review or appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ed Dufresne. I have lived at 83 East State Street for going on 20 years now. And 83 State Street sits directly across from the hill on the south side where apparently they're proposing to put a sidewalk, which would probably need a giant retaining wall as well. I'll be blunt. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I mean, honestly, this is up there with the obelisk and the signage all around town for like a place that takes an hour to walk around. Like, I don't understand who could think that this is a good idea. But as other people have pointed out, the condition of State Street is terrible. It certainly needs to be repaved. Any work underneath probably should be done at the same time. Sidewalks, sure. The sidewalks are rough. They could be replaced. Tearing out half that hillside at $1 million cost, which personally I feel is a big underestimate, is just ridiculous. One of my favorite things to do is sit on my porch. I've sat on my porch in all sorts of times, weather, winter, summer. I've never, ever, except maybe for 4th of July, seen enough traffic on that street, both pedestrian or auto or bike, to justify any of these major things like widening the road, putting in an extra sidewalk, etc. I don't know of any accidents that have happened up at the crosswalk that's kitty corner to my house. I've never seen one. But if safety is a concern, I'm sure a flashing light there or a stop sign would not disrupt the neighborhood. But everything else would definitely disrupt the neighborhood, and I think in a negative way. I'm just picturing myself sitting on my porch, looking across at this sidewalk that no one is using at all, as this big white elephant there. In addition, there are 5 apartments in my building. There are 4 parking spots. Some of the apartments have 2 cars. So the parking places directly in front of our house, of which only one side of the street is parkable, are very, very crucial to our neighborhood. So I'll leave it at that. But Yeah, I just, anything more than just paving and replacing the sidewalks and doing the work that needs to be done underneath is nothing but a bad idea. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks. I'll go back out to Zoom, and Gwen Rolfe, I saw that you had your hand was up earlier. If you're still here, I'll get to you too. Eve Mendelson.
Yeah, hi. Eve Mendelson. I'm on Fuller Street, which is off of Liberty Street, and I'm an avid bicyclist. Everyone probably see me around town. Even today, I was riding up East State Street to Hubbard, and and like John Holler and another guy, I really don't see the real need for that for a bike path along East State Street, partial bike path, because it sort of ends before it really gets to College Street, and it starts at Cedar. Especially, and I guess maybe I've always misunderstood this, but I believe bicyclists are allowed to ride on the sidewalks as long as there are no meters. So starting from Cedar up to College, if one is really inclined and feels unsafe, you could ride the sidewalk and have to switch sides occasionally, but it is an option already. If as I understand it, that it is a legal option already to be able to use the sidewalk to ride a bicycle, if anyone would like to pipe in. But I did find it in Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 8, 10, Section 10-807 and 10-808. I've also seen it, this bicycling laws documents. And so I wasn't sure why. I know I lived in Berlin, Germany for a while, and they definitely did that, where they share pedestrian sidewalk with bicycle, and you just have to get off your bike or whatever for pedestrians. But that to me seems like an option if someone is uncomfortable. I mean, I'm only uncomfortable because the road is in such terrible condition. So I'm totally for just getting it repaired. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for joining us. Lise Ewald.
Well, I live on Cedar, so if this were to take place, I think it would make our parking even worse. But I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking, the first year I lived in Montpelier, I was on Vine Street. I had to park on the street. There was no other option. And so I just can't believe this is under discussion. Just think about egress from your home versus people riding their bike. It just doesn't make sense to me unless some sort of exception can be made or something could happen to those people that rent. I really just don't think that's fair. And the other thing is, I'm just wondering, all of us are putting a great deal of energy into talking tonight. Is there do our words matter, or where are we in the decision-making process?
The answer is yes, your words matter, and we're hoping to make a decision tonight.
You.
Donna Bate. Thank you for joining us, Donna.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful discussion. Can you hear me?
Yes, I was going to say you were very blurry, but now we can't see you.
Okay,
There we
good.
are.
I also have a cold, so I'm really gruffy. I really appreciate hearing so many different comments. I want to go back to the Montpelier Transportation Advisory Committee that oversaw this project, and it did start even before 2018. We had to pull together federal and state funding, and we had to work in State Street and the underground utilities and the bridge on State Street before they could do East State. Hence, it got in so much bad shape before it could get done. So that took a while. Meanwhile, instead of looking at the recommendations from the committee who worked with DPW all through the project, I saw a total dismissal of those words, Mayor, and that disappointed me because the committee recommended, number one was to do a reconstruction and do it as quickly as we could after we got the other parts of State, Center of Maine up done. And second was a bike lane if it was plausible financially. Third was to add a sidewalk again if it was financially feasible. Those were the three priorities coming out of the committee. And so I really want to focus on that. And if there is, as we know, some financial stress right now, then reconstruction should be done. And I do not think the city should be providing spaces as a priority instead of landlords. I feel renters do need parking and landlords have that responsibility, not the city, to keep on-street parking. So if there's a conflict with that, I would vote for the bike path or the sidewalk first, but mostly reconstruction. And to Barbara's point, she's right that the 9.5 width does slow down traffic. And we need to do that because once it's smooth, people will go too fast, like we experience on Berlin Street. So please keep the narrow lanes. The staff really knows what they're doing for safety. So I just encourage you to listen to the words and not keep remaking decisions and try to draw on everything that's been done about this street. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Donna. Mary's phone. I assume there's somebody named Mary on the other end of it. And you're still muted. Well, okay, we'll come back to you. Is there anyone in the room who hasn't been called on yet who'd like to be heard? I'm sorry, what? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor McCullough, City Councilors. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Zach Porter, and when I first moved to town, I lived at 76 East State, which is right about where the crosswalk comes across East State. And at the time, I was the father of a 2-year-old, and I was watching kids crossing that crosswalk in precarious situations frequently. Today, my daughter is a UES student, and she walks herself, because we're a wonderful town and I trust her, up to the contemporary dance studio on top of the hill at the college. Like many other kids in this town who head up there for classes or who head up there for soccer practice. Right now, that situation is not a safe situation. And that absolutely has to be a priority for the redesign of this street. I am a big supporter of bike and pedestrian travel, and I'm a little bit disappointed, unfortunately coming into this a bit late, admittedly, that one of the alternatives considered for this project wasn't to look at a one-way option for East State Street. Because what I've heard here tonight is that the biggest concern is parking and safety for pedestrians. Well, I know a great way to make sure that we have enough parking and safety for pedestrians would be to have one lane for vehicle travel going in one direction on this street. And it's confusing to me why this wasn't considered much earlier in the process. And it concerns me as a resident who is looking ahead at hopefully decades of life here in Montpelier and future redesigns of other streets in town, that perhaps this project wasn't scoped and wasn't really all the options were on the table at the time when they should have been for the public's consideration, for the council's consideration. As somebody who watches a lot of public processes, state, federal, and municipal, getting those alternatives right matters. So no matter what happens tonight, and I'm coming in here, again, admittedly late, I hope that for future decisions that this city undertakes with a lot of public money at stake, that we can get more options on the table and get them out there earlier for everybody to consider and to think about. And let's prioritize pedestrians. Let's prioritize safety. Then we can, play around with the other pieces. But it doesn't seem like those were the priorities with this process to me. So thank you, and I appreciate the careful thought that's gone.
Thanks. I think there was someone else over by the doorway. Is that right? Okay, Steve.
So.
Sharing your screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Is it live? So I hear a lot about 3 to 5 year kind of concerns. And we're building a street for 50 years here. So, both Berry Street and East State Street need to be some of our grandest streets. But I want to be real clear about what the law requires of you tonight, because there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of heat around this project. Vermont's complete streets law does not make sidewalks and bike accommodations optional. They are the default. When a city reconstructs a street, especially one involving water, sewer, curbs, drainage, and pavement, the street must be designed for all users unless the council makes specific valid findings explaining why it cannot. There are only limited grounds on which you may vote to depart from complete streets. They are narrow and they're not political preferences. You may only do so if you find, based on evidence, documented evidence, written findings, that the cost is truly excessive relative to the overall project, not inconvenient, not unpopular, but demonstrably disproportionate, with numbers to back it up. There is no demonstrated need for accommodation of pedestrians, bicyclists, or other users, something that would be very hard to claim on East. So you'd have to find that there is no demonstrated need for accommodation or pedestrians. And I don't think anecdotal comments from a couple of public that nobody uses that sidewalk or nobody walks there or nobody bikes there would cut the mustard. That providing the accommodation would create a documented safety risk, not a speculative one, and that there are physical, environmental, or other constraints that make compliance infeasible. And those constraints must be clearly identified and explained. That's it. Those are the lanes you're allowed to drive in. What you may not do under the law is to vote against complete streets because on-street parking might be reduced, because the project has been delayed, because the issue is controversial, or because parking is being framed as more important than sidewalks and bike safety. Parking is not an exception in the statute. Cost, inconvenience is not an exception. Public outcry is not an exception. East State Street is near an elementary school. Children walk there, people bike there. The need is obvious. If the city believes it cannot meet complete streets on some segment, then you must say so plainly and explain why in writing with data, not generalities. If you vote to ignore the Complete Streets Committee's recommendation without making those findings, you're not exercising discretion. You're acting outside the structure the law gives you. So the question before you is not, do we like bike lanes? The question is, have you made the legally required findings supported by evidence to justify not building them? If the answer is no, then the law has already made that decision for you.
Thanks, Steve. There are a couple of people I'm seeing online. Emily Seifert.
Hi, Emily Seifert. Important because Emily Seifert is a different person.
Sorry.
No problem. I just want to say that whatever the outcome of the sidewalk and bike lane debate, at a minimum, I think that it is essential that there be flashing lights and a bump out if that mid-block crosswalk remains there. As many other people have said, it is so dangerous for children and adults. I am a very careful driver, and I have so many times not seen people because they're hidden by the cars that are parked right up next to the crosswalk. So I would just suggest that at a bare minimum, the parking spots that are immediately adjacent to the crosswalk be removed so that there's better visibility and people aren't coming out from between cars when they're trying to use that crosswalk that's between Hubbard and West Street. I, in general, am in favor of bike lanes, but I am also in favor of fiscal prudence in this case. So my priority would be make that crosswalk safer. Thank you.
Thank you. John Anderson. You're muted, John.
There we are.
There you go.
I will be very brief. As I watch the hearing tonight, it would appear to me that if you do what most comments would lead you to do, you would have a street, developed portion of the street that's 37 feet wide. That would consist of two 5-foot wide sidewalks, 19-foot wide travel lanes, and an 8-foot lane of parking. There may be a better way to spend that width that I think is okay with people on my neighbors on East State. And that would be to have the sidewalk on our side of the street, the north side, be only 3 feet wide. Its purpose under the new configuration is simply to get people from that area of the street to crosswalks at either end of the street. And so 3 feet is the ADA minimum, and you could do that. Then you could widen the sidewalk on the other side of the street, which might make it safer for, if indeed bicyclists want to use the sidewalk, they would have 7 feet with the walkers rather than 5 to use it. I suspect that's about the same cost. It may be a better way to spend the width that you're looking at. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Is there anyone else in the room who, yes, sir?
Hi, my name is Andy Boutin. I'm at 104 East State Street. We used to live at 89. We lived on East State Street for about 25 years now. Raised 2 kids, walked to Union Elementary School every day. We definitely, have been both pedestrians and cyclists on East State Street. I think that one of the most important things I want to echo is what Tim Heaney's response was in the January meeting, and comments regarding the bank on 100, trying to get a sidewalk into that bank, I believe will be a complete disaster, both financially and just physically. That bank is not stable. We've watched it come down on the other side of the street multiple times on the hill that goes down. Bailey? Is it Bailey? Bingham. On Bingham Street, it's complete clay. When we were living at 89, we would literally watch that bank come into East State Street. Tim, told us about Volkswagen Beetle-sized boulders that his parents put in to retain that. So I think it's really going to be a financial disaster trying to put a sidewalk across 100 on that 100 East State Street on the north side. That being said, I also think that the Complete Streets Committee has kind of taken a one-track mind on we need bike lanes and we need sidewalks. That is true. But to Steve's point, the statute also allows speed controls, which I've tried to advocate for on East State Street for years and years. Drivers drive too fast up and down East State Street. They can't now because it's a class 4 road. I understand that. But when it is in good condition, it's always been too fast. So other complete street criteria can be speed controls, and it can be other safety measures for pedestrians. And I think the bump outs with flashing lights meet that. I just want to leave you with the cautionary note that was echoed in the January meeting. Again, that bank, if we touch that bank on the north side on 100 East State Street, I think it's gonna end in disaster for years and years to come. So I just want to leave you with that for sure. Thanks.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
Jesse Remick, Lincoln Avenue. So I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. I'm going to keep this short. I'm in support of the original plan that was voted on previously, and I do commend all the efforts while considering bike lanes, 2 alternates. I think it's something we need to do with all of our projects, and I'm glad that we're doing that. It seems in this specific instance, it's not worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze, right? So I think we need to keep that in focus. And I appreciate all the effort you did to try to make every possible way to make it viable here. I think the longer this project's delayed, the more it's going to cost. And I think we voted on it, and I'm in favor of moving forward. So thank you.
Thanks. And yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Beth Boutin. I'm a resident of 104 East State Street. And as my husband spoke, property owner, and forgive me, I'm going to read this so I stay on time. I'm a property owner and resident, as mentioned, for 25 years, and really am thankful for the multiple opportunities for public to comment on this, even if there was a location snafu, and the online version as well. So I'm not entirely remembering what scope of work was actually approved by you all. So apologies, I really apologize. I'm not able to speak really informed about that entirely in my mind. But I want to echo what a lot of the comments were said previously here about a need to rebuild East 8th Street now. It's outlived its useful life. You've heard that a number of times. Streets, it's way past its useful life, and it cannot withstand another winter. It will not be drivable or plowable. You will not be able to send your emergency department vehicles up that street safely, and you'll be putting your own employees at risk. So I really want you to think about that within mind of just for a bike lane. There is a sidewalk, and the sidewalk has been there for many, many, many years. There is a sidewalk on East State Street. And yes, you have to cross the street to use it. But we can make that improved with safety and visibility and speed controls that were mentioned here tonight. Our 2 children learned to walk down that street safely and patiently without incidents, to get to school on time, to get to downtown, to get to their friends, to their soccer practices. They're functional adults now. They did a great job, and everyone else's children can do that too. But we do need safety improvements on that street. I do want to articulate here, we have a lot of pressing public works needs. There was another water main break on somewhere Liberty recently, and I'm sure there's another one and another one and another one. And I really want to urge the council to prioritize proceeding with addressing our public needs, even though we have a need for bike lanes and sidewalks, but we just can't be adding more. It's not responsible fiscally, and I am too concerned about the cost overruns. If one of the alternates are selected tonight, the banks, retaining walls, what's underneath the ground is unknown, and that's a huge risk and a liability for this group to take on. So again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I hope that we can see a project start this year. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room who would like to be heard who has not had a chance to be heard yet? And I do keep in mind, Hanif, come on up.
Thank you, Hanif Nazarali, resident on Loomis Street. Previously a member of the MTIC, the Transport Infrastructure Committee, currently with Complete Streets Committee. I was interested to hear Donna Bate give us the sort of the longer view looking back, that 2018, there was already a scoping, and the committee there already had a vision of a bike lane. I think it's important to keep that in mind. And as a member of the Complete Streets, when we saw that the presentation of consultants' recommendations by DPW didn't include a bike lane, we felt it was important to bring that up. I'm also interested that one of the commentators talked about how you use the street width. That was in the mind of the Complete Streets Committee. There was no intention to delay a project that, as Donna Bate has said, was really waiting on the lower part of State Street works. The Complete Streets Committee was really right behind the urgency of completing the infrastructure project as it was. And one of the reasons we stepped back after April 2025, when we made our recommendation, was figuring that the bike lane, and all the discussion that we've had today, does not actually factor in greatly to cost or the timeline for the infrastructure project. The bike lane is just a matter of what do you do with the street width. It's a trade-off for the on-street parking. It's a matter of restriping whatever existing street width you have. So I feel there's been a little bit too much weight put on the bike lane is what is holding up a project, what is adding a lot of cost to the project. I don't think there's really, DPW can make a finer comment, on what the implications actually are of making a decision at a later stage. But I'd like to leave you with my understanding, which is it's a trade-off between on-street parking and a bike lane. And it doesn't really factor into the sidewalk issues and the safety issues that a lot of people have been speaking to. So I'd like to leave you with that.
Thank you. Mary Boyce.
Hi, thank you. I'm a lifelong resident of Montpelier, as were my parents, and I had children that I raised here. I live on 18 Hubbard. I use East State Street daily. I think first and foremost, as many people have said, is that we need that street fixed. I have a motorcycle that I ride, and I can no longer ride it up that street. It's just not safe for me to do so. You have to drive super slow just to get over the bumps and humps, as well as the water main breaks. My second thought is, with an already tight parking situation in downtown Montpelier, I can't even fathom trying to take away spaces from businesses downtown, especially with the Montpelier Post Office being where it is now, and the businesses that need those spots that are close there. We want people to come to Montpelier. People already, friends that I know that live outside of Montpelier don't want to come in because of the parking. Why would we want to take spots away from businesses for people to come in? As far as the crosswalks, I like them the way they are. Maybe I'm just old school, but the crosswalks or the sidewalks have always worked for me up and down East State. I do believe that people should go slower on that road. People do travel much too fast. I have friends that live at the top of East State that also count on their parking spots. I think that's important to them as well. I just think the road should be fixed. Keep the sidewalks the way they are. Why add sidewalks or a bike lane when it's going to add to the cost when what we have already works? That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? All right. I'd like to move along. Kurt, as we've been hearing comments, I've been noting down some questions that I think people might want some answers to. I'll just hit you with them.
One more person.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, yes, Susan Whitehead. Thanks, Ben.
Hi, I'm Susan Whitehead, 1 West Street. I don't own a car, so I walk, bike, and take public transportation around Montpelier. I think that one sidewalk is just fine. And, that ridge is completely clay. It would be impossible to have a construction project on that side. As people have said, it would lead to a collapse of that ridge even further. I do want to mention, though, that the crosswalks that we have are quite unsafe, especially for the children. I'm a parent. It really concerns me how many children are on that street. I think that fixing the current road, fixing the current street, and focusing on those crosswalks to keep it safe for the pedestrians and the bikers. So bump outs, lights, and allowing bikes to use the sidewalks so that bikes and pedestrians are safe and off the road would work well. But I don't think it makes fiscal sense, and I don't think it's for the common good to add a bike lane or a second sidewalk, but certainly it would be for the common good and for the safety of our children if we were to improve those crosswalks. I think, people say teach the children, but the roads seem to get less safe every year that goes by. And I don't think it's the responsibility of children. It's really the responsibility of us, the adults, to keep our streets safe, and especially keep those crosswalks really visible and safe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your service and all you're doing here.
Thanks. Last call for anyone online who might want to be heard.
Hi, this is Laura Woodard.
Yes.
I live at 64 Clarendon Avenue, and I'm a water operator. I just want to speak for the infrastructure under the road and how very important it is for our city to stay on track with fixing and upgrading that infrastructure. And so I would support any sticking with a timeline that allows us to address those aging infrastructure, the aging infrastructure of our city. Thank you.
Thanks. Elizabeth Keenan.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Keenan. I live on Liberty Street, and I am just wanting to add one more piece to sort of the logic I heard a couple of times tonight about, reasons for maybe not having the sidewalk on both sides being related to there haven't been accidents yet, or have there been accidents? And I think relying on that kind of logic to wait for an accident to happen to be a motivation for why to make crossing safe doesn't make sense. So that's something to keep in mind. I think, safety is of a top priority here. So, making that street safe for any mode of transportation as is, it just needs to be fixed. I don't have enough information about whether or not adding sidewalks, is prudent at this point. But that said, I think safety is of a top priority. And so regardless of what decisions get made, focusing on those crosswalks being safe, and even considering things like tables, I get why we wouldn't want to necessarily have speed bumps per se, but there have been, places where I've lived in the past, certainly less snow than here, had tables which helped slow down traffic going up and down streets, because once the street does get fixed, those cars will go quicker. So I think a focus on making sure there's just safe places for people to be, regardless of what transportation they are on.
Thanks. Is there anybody else? All right, Kurt, I've got a list of questions for you. I'll just go down them as they came to me. One is there apparently is a difference in cost estimate, the 85,000 versus $275,000 delta, and I wonder if you could advise us on that.
I'm not 100% sure of the difference where our DPW staff did the estimate, relatively quickly. So I don't know that I can completely answer that without re-examining the estimate.
Okay. Next question is that I know we've seen comments in email, and I think we've heard some comments tonight of just saying, let's just reconstruct the road exactly the way it is, no change to sidewalks or bike path or anything else. Do we have a cost for that?
Yeah, I believe it was the total, we had it split up by total project costs, which included the phase 1 work that was been done. And it was 8.2 million, which included the phase 1 portion already that's been completed, which was about 3.3 million.
Okay, thanks. There's a question raised about the width of the travel lane, whether the width we're talking about is is sufficient or is the right width for the expected travel on that road?
Yeah, it is allowable to go down to a 9.5 foot lane. I expect in final design, DPW would recommend a 10 foot lane. So there is, some conflicting data about the benefits of narrower traffic lanes, helping with traffic calming, reducing traffic speeds. So I expect likely we'll end up with a 10 foot lane when we get to final design, but you can go down to 9.5.
Do you confirm that cyclists are allowed to ride on the sidewalks in that location?
I'm not 100% sure. There is a local ordinance related to cyclists on the sidewalk, and I believe it's prohibited at least in the downtown, but I'm not certain about East State Street.
I can check that in a second. It's
Okay.
prohibited in the downtown. But then it does refer to another part of the ordinance.
Do you have the answer for us? That's right.
Actually, just Corey Line with Public Works. This is actually just a conversation we had a little while ago. There is no city ordinance that prohibits riding bicycles on the sidewalk, with the exception of the downtown. The issue with that, and we've just had a conversation with police, is interpretation of that, because the language, the zoning district is no longer called that anymore. So it references a zoning district that doesn't exist anymore. So you may end up actually seeing that here in the near future, some conversations about sidewalks and bicycle activity.
Amending the ordinance to fix that, yep. Okay, thanks. Council members, has this raised any questions in your mind before we get into really diving into the discussion? Adrian?
Two just kind of level setting questions. So I think for the public, it came up a couple times on what council did approve. So it might be good just to state what we did approve for everyone to know. And does anyone know?
Kurt has the answer.
I don't have the exact language though.
Right. So the actual last vote that council made was to reconstruct the street as is, with the addition of a sidewalk on the south side of the road between Hubbard Street and the Mid-Black Crossing, so that you'd have a continuous sidewalk along the south side of the road from College down to Main Street, and then to reevaluate the inclusion of that additional sidewalk at 60% design.
Thanks, Kurt.
The second question I had, I just want to make sure, Steve did bring this up in terms of the complete streets policy, and I haven't read the whole policy, but I just want to make sure we're following that and we don't, at some point end up, with litigation that we didn't follow it because we didn't accept, or I don't know what we're going to do, but just the complete streets policy and what we do and what we can't do.
And what we're required to do, right? Yeah. Corey?
I think you're referencing the statute, correct?
Yes.
So there's an important phrase in the statute, and that's complete street principles. It's not you have to build a bike lane. It's not you have to put sidewalks on both sides of the street. It's the incorporation of complete street principles. A bike lane is a complete street principle. A shared lane with its arrows and signage is a complete street principle. Even down to fresh markings, not even changing anything, is a complete streets principle. It's the consideration of all users. Believe you're doing that.
So if we conclude that the needs of cyclists are adequately addressed by the fact that there's not that much bike traffic and having them ride in the roadway is adequate, that would be in your opinion satisfactory.
You are considering all users.
Ben?
Thanks. I also just want to thank the public for, I think, a really positive, fruitful conversation. I want to go back to what we voted for last time and the idea that, we had asked, could you put a new section of sidewalk on the south side, and you went and looked at the design, and then I felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you came back and said it's really cost prohibitive, right? That that would involve putting in the retaining wall, and it would just, there isn't money in the project to do that. That's not viable. I think what the kind of remaining question I have about this is, and sorry if it's simple, but is it possible to have a continuous sidewalk on that street without removing parking or swapping sidewalks?
Yeah, actually, we've been thinking about that a lot and had a suggestion. If that's something the council wants to proceed with, is we're at 60% design with the inclusion of that sidewalk on the south side. The estimated cost for that is currently 500,000. But this is at 60% design estimate, and bids vary significantly. So what I would suggest is that we, if that's what council wants to pursue, we bid that portion as an alternate, a bid alternate, and then once we open the bids, we can make the decision at that time whether or not to include that portion of the project, because it's already designed. There's a few things about this project that really the public should know. This is a 2-year project. It's too long to do in a single construction season in Vermont. So which means there will be an opportunity, one, to allocate capital or local option tax money to fund it if it does come in over. There's an opportunity for Public Works to seek alternate grant opportunities during that time frame while we're bidding this job and building the phase 1. So there's benefits in proceeding with the bid, with it included as an alternate, and where it's very easy to remove it from the scope of the project, particularly since our plans are at 60% with it included in the design.
So
I had the same question that Adrian had, so I actually went back and sat through the May 28th meeting again. I had so much fun in May. Again, anyway, we came up with the plan as Ben described it, but I just wanted to note that we talked about a shared lanes in both directions. And we also talked about a sense of not significantly widening the whole infrastructure that we're building. And I'm curious about that part. My sense is from our last meeting in January was that the south sidewalk was too expensive. I recognize you're making a suggestion here for an alternate in the bid, and that's an interesting idea. If we do that, and if the sidewalk is still too expensive, I'm just curious what would we be building, and how much of an encroachment would we be making on the north side, which I think is where we'll be taking some more width. Am I right about that, or?
Right, with any
do we know enough yet?
Yeah, it's, we're at 60% design, so identifying exactly, to the foot of how much impacts there would be along the existing properties, it's just, we're not there yet. We feel it's fairly minimal, within 3 feet or so, probably less in most areas. But we don't have plans developed to the point where we can say, exactly what's going to impact it at every location at this point. But I think, it'd be fairly minimal. More or less, things would go back where they are.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up.
Really? I mean, it's not like the Earth's moving.
Mr. Skeels, if you could mute yourself, thank you.
I've heard several times from John Anderson, we heard from him tonight about his idea that we can fit it all in with certain changes in dimensions of certain things, reducing the north side sidewalk to 3 feet and so on. I don't know that math works all the way up the street, but does it work if the south side sidewalk is put on this side, on the road side of the guardrail, can you fit everything in again without significantly widening the road in the lower portion?
Yeah, 3 foot sidewalk would be really problematic for us. We can't fit our sidewalk plows on a 3 foot sidewalk.
Okay.
So it'd be just impossible to maintain in the winter.
So we'd be significantly widening the road on the north side. I
You
think
would,
we
you
did.
would need to, yeah. We really need 5.5, like a 5 foot sidewalk with a 6 inch curb in order to safely operate the sidewalk plows.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, so here we are. I have to say that I'm reluctant to support the idea of bidding that south side sidewalk as an alternative, because that just means that after that bid comes in, we're gonna see a whole nother meeting like this one to discuss that all over again. And I won't be here for that, but I bet none of the people on the council who are going to be here really look forward to doing this again. I think we want to have a decision. That's my sense of doing this. So what do we want to do, folks? Carrie?
Yeah, I think that this whole process has actually done a great job of considering all the needs of different users and lots of public participation, lots of hearing from people, lots of weighing different options, and I'm impressed with that. Actually, it's taking a long time, but I think we've done a good job with that. I think the decision that we came to last spring to not include a bike lane but include sidewalk with the retaining wall, that was a good decision. I liked it. I was in favor of it at the time. We've now learned that it's not economically feasible the way we thought it was going to be, and so we have to make a shift. And so it makes sense to me to say, okay, we're not going to add the extra sidewalk. We're going to live without the extra sidewalk, even though my personal priorities are I would like to see continuous sidewalk. I think it makes a really big difference for safety of pedestrians and just ease of use. And we have lots of possible actions that can be taken to improve the safety of the current situation with the sidewalk on different sides of the street and being broken out like that. And I know that Public Works is considering lots of different options. Many people have made suggestions such as bump outs for the crosswalks and lights. And I will say the other day when the last time we discussed this last month, just that morning, I was driving down East State Street, and for some reason, there were like no cars parked on it in the middle of the day, which I thought was interesting, which I know that's not normal, but I really could feel myself wanting to just speed up and roar down the hill. And this is in the condition that it's in now. It's a tempting place. And so there's a lot of things that we need to do to slow the traffic down there, to increase the visibility for pedestrians. And I think, and we can do those. And those are different questions than putting in a whole new sidewalk or a bike lane. So I'm not 100% sure what you need from us right now. I think what you asked us for last time was to adjust the plan that we had already approved for the additional sidewalk and the retaining wall. And you're asking us to say, no, we don't need that anymore. I'm not sure if that's what you need from us, or if we can just do nothing and you can continue on with the plan that we already put, recognize we can't do the sidewalk and the retaining wall because of money.
Yeah, I think yeah, at a vote on removing, if that's the council's decision to remove the added sidewalk between Hubbard and the mid-block crossing, a vote on that would be good. And then additionally, a vote to incorporate pedestrian improvements at the crosswalks would also be helpful. And, we we need to evaluate exactly what that means. Certainly, bump outs and a flashing pedestrian light are definitely easily incorporated. Stop signs at the intersection of Hubbard and East State Street would require a traffic study, so I do not want to commit to that until we do that study. So I think just a general motion to incorporate pedestrian safety improvements within the project would be sufficient direction for us to get this out to bid.
And Jim.
I like what you just said, Kurt. I definitely, take the wall out, take that extra sidewalk out, fix everything that's there. Definitely, we heard a lot about the crosswalks. I'm fine with bulb outs, with the lights, whatever we can do to, make it safe for people to cross. That's the biggest danger for pedestrians is in the crosswalks. I know when I do my walk across Northfield Street, feels like you take your life in your hands, even though there's a light there and a crosswalk, there's no bulb out though. And I think a bulb out there would make it a little better. But so I'm definitely for the, pedestrian at the crosswalks additions to it, but everything else, just do it the way it is. Let's get on it like the people say that's what they want. And take out that 500,000.
Thanks, Jim. Adrian. Oh, I'm sorry. And then you after that.
I think also, just to say this out loud, this is not just DPW's, lane. I think when we pull out, the 30,000, 100,000 foot, it's the city of Montpelier. And we're talking infrastructure, which is one piece of a very complex problem. I think the other piece that we have to layer in that it's not the city's responsibility, but it's education. And I did send an email to council that one of my previous jobs was running the Safe Routes to School program in the state of Georgia. And so I worked with infrastructure and I worked with education. And so I think bringing the schools into this discussion, there is federal funds, there is state funds, there is our coordinator in Washington County. So I think having them as part of this discussion to look at some of the infrastructure improvements during the final design phase, and then having those education, they have education programs on how to walk and bike safely to school. It's a whole program that exists. And so I think we should layer that in because just the infrastructure is not going to solve all these problems. We have to think holistically of how we bring in our partners, how we bring in these programs. Because one of the things we heard tonight over and over again is safety, safety, safety. Yes, there hasn't been any horrible accidents, but we don't want there to be. So prevention is key. And so I think having those safety infrastructure as part of a motion, I think will be really important, but I want to take it a step further to bring in the schools and bring that program into the city so that education is a part of these infrastructure conversations.
Thanks, Adrian. Helen.
So I will ask a clarification question because time to time we have spring and summer, not winter all the time. So when you go to East State Street now, the look is different, but I visited there like several times when it is spring and summer. And there's a huge tree coming on the crosswalk. That's why when you stand trying to cross the street, car cannot see you. So first question, do we have any authority to trim that tree so it will be really good for the pedestrian and also drivers? And the second question, do we have any chance to change the maybe sidewalk space instead of having it just under the tree, or that part of the road crosswalk?
So first on the tree trimming, yes, if it encroaches within the right of way, the city has the right to
Okay.
do tree trimming. We rely on the Parks Department to assist us with that, and certainly we'll take a look.
Okay, then second question is not important because I was just, if we cannot do that, is there any way to move the crosswalk? Because even if we put all this safety things, if it is covered with a huge tree, then there will be good solution. And since the beginning, because I've been talking to so many people visiting that street so many times because it's in District 2, I didn't support the former vote. So I kept hearing the same thing again and again. People want no delays and just want to fix the current road and just move on. So I will still support that idea. Thank you.
So I've heard a lot of what I think I have a sense of where the council is coming from, and I'll see if someone wants to make a motion, something like this. Direct the Department of Public Works to proceed as with the parameters as we previously voted on, with the exception of removing the sidewalk and retaining wall on the south side of the street. And is that the extent of it?
No.
Okay.
I think you're right. Like, I think it's move forward with the plan with the exception of the retaining wall now that we've determined that it's not feasible. But I also think we really need to be, or unless you want it in a separate motion, maybe you said that, Kurt, of the enhanced safety features around crosswalks. Maybe that's two separate things.
Well, I think they have the ability to pursue that anyway, but I would say, you're right. That should be part of it too. Does someone want to make that motion?
I'll give it a shot. Sure. I move that the Public Works Department move forward with a design that removes the sidewalk contemplated on the south side and the retaining wall, but also considers enhanced pedestrian safety features at crosswalks.
Second.
Yeah, Jim Sheridan has seconded it. Is there any discussion? Adrian?
I'd be so very crystal clear here. So are we voting just to replace the road as it is?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to.
With enhanced pedestrian
With
safety.
enhanced pedestrian and bicycle safety. I think I want to add. Just so that, I'm just trying to think how we want to do that, because it's more than just pedestrians.
I think it's good enough motion
Okay.
for now.
Okay, and they can look into it.
So.
Would you accept a substitution for the word considers and say include?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, everybody's happy with that? Any further discussion? John, do you have that?
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Well done, everybody. I think this was a productive and valuable discussion. There's no other business, and we didn't put a section for council reports because this is a special meeting. So it is 8:31 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.